Amen. Maseches Bava Kama Daf Chavtes Amud Beis. Today's daf is Lamed Amud Aleph. We're advancing, but right now we are still in the last narrow line of Chavtes Amud Beis or Beis, depends what you want. What did we say yesterday? Yesterday we played the mix and match game. In other words, we had two opinions, one of Blozo, one of Yochanan, and one of them says that in Rabbanon, one of them says that Rabbanon always pater, always exempt a person whose object fell in the street, and he was mafkir. That's the rule. He believes that bo, which is completely hefker, not owned by me, is not my bo, not my business. The other one, we don't know which one. The other one, either a Blazer or Yochanan. The other one says the opposite. He says what? No. Only if the whole fall, the water and the broken pieces came to the floor, came down by complete accident, then we say that what happens afterwards, that you didn't clear it off the ground, that's not his fault. Because it's not one point in moment where you can say it's your fault. It fell, not my fault. Plus, afterwards, it was on the floor, it's not mine anymore. You can't catch me at any moment. But regular bore, if I dug a bore, if I placed the bore on purpose on Shus Habim, even though it's not mine financially speaking, I'm chayev. We don't know which one says what. Does Rabbi Lezer say this, or does Rabbi Yochanan say the other? Now we came to a very clear conclusion, or so we thought, until we see what's happening today. Says Rabbi Lezer chayev. Rabbi Lezer is the more machmir. Rabbi Lezer is the one who said that chayev, if you really are, if you really chayev, meaning if you did it on purpose, you dug a bow, even though it's not yours. You placed the parcel in the middle of the street, even though it's not yours, you're mafkir, but you did it on purpose, or b'kshia, you're chayev. That's a blozer. Zog the Gemara, okay, we are now starting the shir. Blozer omar chayev. By default, if a blozer said chayev, Rabbi Yochanan omar potu. We only have two options, A and B, 1 and 2. Yeah, a blozer says chayev. By default, Rabbi Yochanan says potu. By the way, people, remember I told you yesterday there is a red herring here in the story? So after the shir, I said it to two people, now I said it to everyone. If you remember the very beginning of the Amud, Rabbi Yochanan said almost outright that Rabbi Yochanan says chayev. So it's a steer in Rabbi Yochanan. Here we say Rabbi Yochanan says potu, and at the beginning of the page we said Rabbi Yochanan said that if it's on purpose, you're chayev. So that's not good. It's a satira and a contradiction in Rabbi Yochanan. But the Gemara doesn't ask it. You know why the Gemara doesn't ask it? Yeah. Because the Gemara wants to corner Rabbi Yochanan, wait around the corner. The Gemara has an even better question to Rabbi Yochanan. Not just Rabbi Yochanan between him and himself, but Rabbi Yochanan based on a Mishnah. So now we're going to see another big question of Rabbi Yochanan that's going to turn over everything. A big coup d'etat is going to happen here. Rabbi Yochanan amar potu, frag the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan achi, first wadlan, the wadlan. Rabbi Yochanan achi, did Rabbi Yochanan really say that you're always potu? That a person who placed the bow or anything that people can stumble on, Ilshus Abim, Bemezid, potu? That none. We'll see this Mishnah today. We're quoting a Mishnah now. That Mishnah is the next page, which hopefully we'll get to today. It says in the next Mishnah, a person who hid, he wanted to be safe, and he has leftover kots, which are thorns from his garden, or zechuchis, pieces of glass, and he hid them. You know where he hid them? Under the ground, in Rosh Hashanah. He buried them in Rosh Hashanah's ground, but not deep enough. It wasn't deep enough, because then people walked, it wasn't deep enough, and they stumbled, and their toes hit the zchuchis. The agoider gidoi bekoitzim, or a person who decided to be very innovative, and instead of having a regular fence made out of stone, which that is considered as normal, says Rashi, because it says in the Novi, geder avon of the hair. So stam goder in halacha is assumed to be made out of stones, and this person decided to make it out of thorns, like a thorn bush kind of fence, no entry sign kind of, ve'godel shenofel Reshus Harabim, or a regular fence that fell into Reshus Harabim, ve'uzak ben acher, all three cases somebody else stumble upon the thorns or the stones or the whatever, chayev ben izkoi, says the Mishnah, the one who hid the stuff not so well, chayev ben izkoi. Now, let's just focus on one case out of three, the person who made his fence out of koitzim, out of thorns, and somebody brushed against the thorns by mistake on that border between Reshus Yochid and Reshus Harabim, chayev ben izkoi. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, you know why it's chayev ben izkoi? Lo yishonu, that is only true ela b'mafriach. If the, like perach, like poreach, flourishing, which means if the goder of the koitzim, very, very common, like in Parka alone, if the goder koitzim is actually extended to a Reshus Harabim, it's like poreach further. Yeah, B'kitzur, he did not trim it nicely. He thinks in Sfiras HaOmer, you can't prune your goder, It's actually going wild, a little bit going over the border into Reshus Harabim. Then the person who has the goder is chayav because he crossed the border, he crossed the line. Aval b'mitzamtzem, but if the person limited his kotzim to his reshus, potu, I would say it's a simple reason, right? You entered my domain, so it's not my fault. But it's not so simple. There are two ways to understand that qualification of Rabbi Yochanan. My time potu. Why is it that it's potu if the kotzim are in the border between his reshus and Reshus Harabim? Because again, my friend, it's not so simple. This goder is not exactly in the middle of my dining room. This goder is between Reshus Yochid and Reshus Harabim. True, and yet we say the person is potu, and I can claim, no. What do you mean? You are making it accessible for Bnei Reshus Harabim to brush against your wall of kotzim. Why is he using potter? Lam shum davli boil bilshusoi, because the bowl still, yes, is considered to be his reshus, and even though people are allowed to walk there, because the thorn bush belongs to him. Although this is a place where rabbim can walk, they can walk next to my wall and brush against my wall, but the bo bilshusoi is chayev because it's mine. Remember the man de Omer that says that everything is allowed? He says, in the Torah's mechayev on bor, if I tell all the kids in the neighborhood come to play in my backyard, it's hefker, but the bo stayed mine. The bo in the middle of the playground, of my playground, which I made Reshus Yochid turn into Reshus Harabim, that bo stays what? Mine. Then I'm chayev. It's a similar case over here. I say, of course, everyone can walk and brush against my thing, but what? If it's yours, you're chayev. Michlal, that is to say, the chiyuv the bo b'Reshus Harabim, who? Yeah, that is to say that in Reshus Harabim you are chayev. The same thing, the same scenario in Reshus Harabim, you'd be chayev. Alma mafkir nezok of chayev. In Reshus Yochid, it's mine. But if it's extending to Reshus Harabim, then it's everybody's. I'm mafkir, and yet I am chayev. Yeah, or maybe. I'm not sure exactly what the case is inside the goder. One thing we see for sure, the assumption of the Gemara is that once it's going over border to Reshus Harabim, and at that point you would say, that's hefker, it's not in my domain. That's already going overboard to the public domain. So it's not mine, and yet you are chayev. You only potter if it is brushing against you. But other than that, if it goes over the border, you are chayev. Wait. So now you see what? According to Rabbi Yochanan, if you have a thorn or two or three extending to Reshus Harabim, and those are not considered to be yours anymore, we say you're chayev. So why did you tell me that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says potu across the board always is potu? We say here that he's chayev. So you see, not true. Loi answers the Gemara, no, you misunderstood the case of the fence. Really, Rabbi Yochanan would say like this: when I place something in Reshus Harabim, it's either a kotz that extends, and I neglected it on purpose. I'll do it tomorrow. People are getting hurt. Really. I should really mafkir nezokov, I would say potu, if it's not his. If he says, okay, this piece of thorn is not considered mine anymore, then he would be potu. Yeah? Excuse me. I mean, usually he would be. Regularly mafkir nezokov potu. Okay? I'm sorry, not if it extends to Reshus Harabim. If it's mafkir nezokov, usually potur. Over here, when it's extended from his thorn bush, From his thorn bush, really, we said is chayiv. If I put something in the Shus Rabim, potu. Mafkir nezokov, potu. We stick to Rabbi Yochanan saying potu. Rabbi Yochanan is good. The case of the fence is different. Why is the case of the fence different? Because umitzamtzem my time a potu. If so, the one who just has a nicely trimmed fence of thorns, why is it potu? Why is it potu? L'choiro, people brush against your wall, and you should be chayiv. Why? Because this is something that you're mafkir potur, but the fence belongs to you. If the fence belongs to you, you want the fence. And by the way, we now assume that the fence is completely his. Even if it extends into Shus Harabim, it's still his. I'll give you a good example. Oh, now I got it. I wasn't so well prepared. Now I have a good example. Let's say he has very nice roses that cost money. We had such a case in Tel Aviv. There was a family, they had very nice roses. Let's say the rose extends to Shus Harabim. That rose costs, I don't know, 10 shekels. I don't know how much in the market. So don't you want it? Of course you want it. So it's yours. Very good. So really the fence is mine. The fence is mine, and he's mine. Therefore, I'm chayiv. Again, Rabbi Yochanan says, Ameko, mafkir ezokov potu. If I take a stone that's not mine, a knife that's not mine, a bow that's not mine, put it in the street on purpose, potu. Rabbi Yochanan is the lenient one. Like we stick to our guns here. The story of the thorn bush is different. The thorn bush belongs to me. A thing that belongs to me, everyone agrees I'm chayiv, right? Except for leave Rav alone, yeah? Everyone in our page believes if it belongs to me, I am what? I am chayiv. If I took my stone, my phone, my thing, my, put it in the street, I'm chayiv. Very good. Now everything is good. That thorn bush belongs to him. So if the thorn bush with the nice roses, but not so nice thorns, sticks out to Shus Harabim, chayiv. It's my thing, Shus Harabim. Nobody patters on that. There's a gvul. Of course, you chayiv. So why is it if I trim it nicely, but people still have the right to walk on the border and brush against my thingy, my wall? Thank you. Why am I potter over there? Why am I potter? It's mine, belongs to me, and it's bordering Rishus Rabim. Answers the Gemara, very good answer, of course. Mishum deitmal Allah, because it says upon it, we gave an explanation on the story. The normal way when people walk down the street, they're not meant to brush themselves, so to speak, or to rub themselves against the wall. Normally, chikuch, also it's a good thing, sometimes it's a fight, yeah? Leitchakech is to brush or to rub against, yeah? You rub me the wrong way? Yesh benenu chikuch. Chikuch is sometimes like a wrong kind of interaction between people, yeah? So because people are not meant to walk all the way to the side of the street and brush their shoulders or back, whatever, against the wall, then that person who is being a good citizen, he has a thorn bush, which is not normal. He should have had one of stone, true, as Rashi hints to. But Lamaisa, if he trimmed it, and it doesn't go overboard, so it's true that that's a border. You're not meant to drive, so to speak, by the border. You're not meant to walk right by the border. Mimele, we say, it's your fault, Mr. Pedestrian, and not my fault, Mr. Rose Bush, Thorny Bush, hedge owner. That's it. Baruch Hashem, yeah, good. Mimele, let's summarize. Rabbi Yochanan, we stick to Rabbi Yochanan's current version that if the person was completely mafkir, potu. Mafkir potu. I mafkir this cup. Well, I don't because I need to drink. And that cup, I don't know, I put it in the street in a way that disturbs everyone. I don't know. Okay, people can't strip into that. Then what? Potur, according to Rabbi Yochanan. What's the story of the thorn bush? You see the thorn bush is chai when you brush against it. Yeah, isn't it because what? It's not mine, but the person is no. Yeah. Why is it chai when it sticks out and is potur when it's trimmed? Nothing to do with our sugya. It's all different reason. The reason is because the thorn bush belongs to the person. Yes, it does. So Rabbi Yochanan never spoke about it. If it belongs to him, why is it potur? Why is it potur belongs to him when it's nicely trimmed? Because then you stepped your boundaries and not me. That's why. It's not bar in Shus Harabim. It's bar which is on the border. Very good question. You have a bar on the border of Shus Harabim and Shus Hayochim. right? So if there's no fence, maybe it's a problem. I don't know. I could hear that. And we had such cases before, right, with the animal. But when you have the fence nicely trimmed and you're not meant to walk and brush against the wall of Rishus HaYochid as you walk in Rishus HaRabim, your feet are in Rishus HaRabim, true, but your shoulder is touching that area which is not yours. You have to have some buffer zone left. You didn't, you, Mr. Pedestrian, it's your fault, not mine. I kept my hedge, whatever, nicely trimmed. Mimela and Potter, but it's not at all contradicting Rabbi Yochanan from before. No, Rabbi Yochanan speaks about half your B'shus Abim, your Potter. Quick one, and then go ahead. Go ahead.
I've forgotten the answer. If there are three overgrowth and the apples go into the from the rabbin, and it's over the fence, and the apples are hanging in the rabbin.
Now, one more question, and that would change everything. 3 lines from the bottom of the page. Again, did Rabbi Yochanan really say that potul? Did Rabbi Yochanan really say that if I have a complete hefker object, which is not mine, I gave up ownership and I put it in the street viciously, intentionally, and it hurt someone, am I potter? Is that so according to Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan says, Halacha kistam Mishnah, famous line. Rabbi Yochanan says that if there's a Mishnah stam, what's a stam Mishnah? It's true, that's true, but anonymous. Anonymous is usually Rabbi Meir. An anonymous Mishnah is a Mishnah which will follow the halacha. If the Mishnah doesn't bring any other opinions, the Mishnah doesn't say Rabbi Meir Oimer, whatever, or Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, Rabbi Kiva Oimer. The Mishnah says just the Mishnah, so and so, the narrator. That Mishnah says Rabbi Yochanan the Moira. That Mishnah halacha is like that Mishnah, especially if there's machlokes before and then there's a stam now. Anonymous means that's the consensus. That's what we hold by halacha. Okay, so now Rabbi Yochanan has to stick to every Mishnah that's a stam Mishnah, every Mishnah that's anonymous, that's generally narrated. Rabbi Yochanan should now follow that halacha and look what the Mishnah says. Here's a very, very, very classical Mishnah, which you haven't seen yet, and you already saw 500 times, because we mention it all the times. But now, look at this. This is like Kita Dalid. The one who dug a hole in Ushus Rabim. A donkey or an ox fell, or a cat or a dog. They mace, and they died. Chayev, very good. Don't ask me what's a Chiddush. It is a Chiddush, because it's not Chiddush for you. You learned it already. The kids are you Chayev and all those. You know it's a Chiddush? Excuse me. It's a huge Chiddush, because it's hefker. If I dig a bore in the middle of Park Ayalon, is Park Ayalon mine? I wish it was. I'd like to put some order there at 2 o'clock at night, halavai, so my kids can sleep at night. But what? And he's really? According to Rabbi Yochanan? No. We're saying that Rabbi Yochanan patters. We are now on the agenda of saying Rabbi Yochanan's opinion potter, because it's hefker. It's not mine. Because the bore is not mine, all I made was a difference in the drop between the ground level and 10 tefachim below. It's not financially mine. And yet, excuse me, right now we want to say Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that hefker b'shus habim is always potter, even viciously. And yet we see Rabbi Yochanan is supposed to stick to the Mishnah that says that if I dig something viciously, b'chavona, in the street, it is chayev, even though it's not mine. Ooh, chiddush. So Rabbi Yochanan contradicts himself. Ella, well, now we turn the tables, make a huge turnover. Ella la'olam Rabbi Yochanan amar chayev. Wow, we're stuck to the wall. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that says chayev. Remember, we didn't know who said what. Rabbi Yochanan says chayev. Rabbi Yochanan says that even if it's not yours, you did it on purpose, you're chayev. So now, also, my red herring question was answered. We're back to the old glory. Rabbi Yochanan, the original one at the beginning of the page, was the right one. Rabbi Yochanan chayev. Remember, chet. Rabbi Yochanan chayev. Rabbi Yochanan says chayev. Rabbi Yochanan says you are chayev, like you'd like to say. If you did it viciously, purposefully, or even in a negligent way, neglected, but you should have known better, and your stuff is in the street, either you dug it or you placed it, you're chayev. Chayev. When is it your potter? If it started by mistake. If it fell, I didn't know what's happening. Oh, I'm not responsible for that. Your irresponsibility continues. Although b'dinei shamayim you're chayev, b'dinei adam you're potur. The Rabbi Yochanan Omer chayev. If Rabbi Yochanan is chayev, then by default Rabbi Elazar Omer potur. That's a seesaw. That can't be. Frag the Gemara, what you want to ask, I think. V'amar Ablezer mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Ablezer quoted Rabbi Shmuel. Remember what? The famous line, Ablezer quoted Rabbi Shmuel, the Tana saying what? Lamed Amud Aleph, that two things are not yours, but they are yours only for the bad things, only for chiyuvim. Chometz, right? Chometz on the holiday. You celebrate Passover, and you get rid of all the leavened bread. You do, I think. Ask your wife. You do. Yes, you know. So on Pesach, even though it's an Isra, no, it's not yours, but it is yours to be chayiv on. And the bow is not financially speaking yours, monetary-wise yours, and yet you chayiv on it. No, so Rabbi Lezer says yes, chayiv. How can Rabbi Lezer says potu? Now Rabbi Lezer is the conundrum. Now Rabbi Lezer is stuck. And says, Gemara lo kasha, easy peasy answer. Hodidei hode Rabbi. Rabbi Lezer on behalf of Rabbi Shmuel said it. Doesn't mean he believes in it. Rabbi Lezer himself thinks really that if you play something in Rishus Harabim, you're potu. And if you dig a bore in Rishus Harabim, which is obviously not yours, because partly alone is not mine, and I dig a hole there, yeah, frustrated, 1 o'clock in the morning, the guy can't sleep, he digs a hole, in the street, then what? Do we say that he's chayev? Rabbi Elazar himself thinks that what is potu, because it's not his. He quoted Rabbi Shmuel, doesn't mean he believes Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel was his rov, or the rov of his rov, whoever, and Lamaisa, he quotes Rabbi Shmuel, doesn't mean that he believes in it. I could tell you, Rav so-and-so said that and that. I can sit down here and tell you, not my own Rav, but it's a quote of Liyashi, which was the biggest of the biggest, and I don't follow him in that psak. I follow Shlomo Zalman. I can quote you a whole shir about Rav Liyashi's psokim, I think. Doesn't mean that I do it myself. Yeah, not Chasham. Yeah. Rabbi Shmuel will tell you that's what Rabbi Lozo thinks, and that's not what I think. Mimela, we are very nicely set. And every question will be answered, I hope, soon. You and then you. Now, Rabbi Shmuel, let's summarize. According to Rabbi Meir, let's not forget Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, he went to the far end, deep end. Rabbi Meir says always chayiv. It fell on purpose, not on purpose. Yours, not yours. Belongs to your grandmother. Belongs to your shviger. Loch patli. It's what? It is chayav, and that's about it. Now, what do Chachamim / Rabbi Yehuda say? They're more mekel. How far are they mekel? Well, first of all, they say that if you collided, you bumped, you're potter at the actual fall. What happens later when you're too lazy to clean up? Chloikis, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lozo. Rabbi Yochanan said chayev, which means if you collided and it was not your fault, then later on to the fact you're mafkir and it's not yours, there's no one given moment you can be mischayev, then you're a potter. But other than that, if you viciously dug a hole or you created an ezek, even though whether it's yours or not yours, you're chayev. Rabbi Yochanan chayev, and that's halacha. That's halacha. Don't dig boris in Rishus Harabim. Yeah, don't go and dig boris in Rishus Harabim. But Rabbi Lozo himself, not in the of Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Lozo himself believes potu. Rabbi Lozo believes that if you are completely not connected to the nezik because it's not yours, you're potter. The nezik, your only chavis, belongs to you always. Question time now was, says the Mishnah, today's Amud L.A., Lamed Amud Aleph. You may ask what's the chiddush, it's coming soon. The one who spills water in Rishus Harabim, shrach the whole sponge into the street, another person was damaged, he slipped and fell, chayev be nizkoi. Yeah, is chayev be nizkoi. Is chayev be nezik. Why? Well, it's his water. Or maybe it's not his water. We'll discuss that, like we saw Rav Shmuel at the beginning. Amatznias koitz, we just saw that now. The one who hides the koitz with his chuchis, the one who hides the thorn and his chuchis, the pieces of glass or thorns. Where did he hide them? Under the ground, but not deep enough. But he thought he's doing right, but he did not dig it 3 tefachim below. The one who makes himself a thorn bush fence, a fence made out of thorn bushes. The Godel Shanofel Rishus Harabim, a person had a fence and the fence fell into Rishus Harabim. Vehuzku ben acherim, after it fell, he didn't care enough to pick it up, and it's his fence that fell, which was, I assume now, without seeing the Gemara, it wasn't so properly built, because Well, it fell, yeah, and you had a hazard over there, it fell, and you just don't care, and people walk through and they bump and they fall. Chayev ben Yizgan, in all these cases, is Chayev ben Ezek. Oh, very nice. Says the Gemara, yeah. Now, Zok the Gemara like this. Omar Rav. Rav is the same Rav as we saw at the beginning of the Perek. Remember what Rav said? Rav said that when you have a puddle of water, which belongs to you, then this puddle of water is not bol. Bol is only hefker. It belongs to you, it's show, right? Right? And it's damage which I cannot connect to any other damage, and it's my fault, such as water, which is not hefker, and someone bumped into, but it's still mine. That's considered to be a total of shor. According to the Rashba, it's a shor muad. Shor muad is chav everywhere, full nezek. Where's the viciousness? You being neglectful. The equivalent of the shor goring is you, human being, who says, that puddle where everyone slips into, we'll clean it tomorrow, or after my son's graduation, after my daughter's chasana, and my daughter is 5. Yeah, so they say about the Israelis, we're only moving to America till my daughter finishes high school in America, good school, then we'll go back to Israel. How old is your daughter? 2. Meanwhile, so now, the kids are Omarav, Lo Shonu ela denit nefukei lav b'mayim. If the kalim, which is what the kli is damaged with the water because it's dirty, then you are chayev. Why? Because show v'lo chamor v'lo kalim doesn't apply. It's not a bowl. It's a show. Show that, let's say, gored my kalim. Seriously, a gored my. He just missed my heart, but the shore got my Gucci suit. Of course, it's chayev. My Gucci suit is expensive, and therefore, of course, show is chayev on clothes as opposed to bow, and therefore chayev. Avalu atzmoi potu. But let's say the person himself crashed and boom, potu. Why is he potu? Kaka olam zikosoy. This is good chazor from the beginning of the parak. It's not. It didn't happen in. Let's assume now, although that may be a discussion. Let's assume, like Jeffrey was saying then, that he bumped his head not inside the water, but right outside the water. So it's kilo. The water pushed him to a bumpy place, to a hard place outside. It's kilu my show and you together. Remember, sleeping is not kilu my water pushing you. It's not like a jet thing. You were sleeping over the water, you lost balance, and together you and the water helped you to get bumped into a different place. That's a very big groma from my show. If that's what the show, that is a groma. I'm not chayiv on that. And patu, again, I'm not saying the guy's a nice guy, patu on the actual damage of the person. It's like the show, and you had some kind of funny fight, and then the shore somehow indirectly pushed you somewhere, and then I'm patu on that. Oh, but the Gemara is not so forgiving so quickly, and now we'll have to see Rashi. Ravun asked Rav, why are you saying so clearly that is potu lo ye'ela kerifshoi? Why shouldn't be chayev like refesh? You know what's refesh? Mud. Let it be like the mud. Look at Rashi. Lo ye'ela kerifshoi. Rashi is on the first line of the Amud. Lamed Amud Aleph, the first Rashi. Lo yela kirivshoy, says Rashi. Hamashlich ziv lo birshus harabim. A person who actually threw his own dung, which could also be like mud. Remember, back then, most of the houses, unless you're a millionaire, your living room, bedroom, whatever, was not tiled. You know that. The floor inside the house was not tiled. It was time regular, and you do sponge, and then you spritz the water, splash the water outside. It's not clean water. What is it? It's mud that comes out to the street, okay? In Africa, it's like that today. It's like this in Africa in some countries. Yes. Isn't he chayev if he wasn't mafkir? Yeah, he's still chayev. Hachinami rifshu de'azkei, because the refesh, the combination of water and earth together, caused the nezik. Shenisavu amayim va'ofo, the water and the ground underneath, which is earth, which is dirt, together they mix v'nasa tit. I think that's the first law in chemistry I learned in my life. You know, as a little kid in Israel, you make mud things, became tit v'sheloihu. Now it's yours, right? You say belongs to him. That's Rav. Because we say this is not bow, which is efker, this is water that he wants to keep. Meaning he wasn't mafkir. That's what I already explained to you in the second part of Rashi. Which means he's saying, why are you so easy and you're saying that it's so simple that he is, what you call it, that he is potu, you say it's two different units over here. There's my water, which is pristine, nice, clear water. It's my water that's mine. Yeah, it's not so nice you slipped in my water, but at the end of the day, what really bothered you, what really bumped you, what you really bumped into is the ground, which is not mine. Yeah, it's like Moshe got you to a corner, then it's your fault you hit afterwards, you got hit by the ground. It's not so clear. It's not true. It's water and ground together. It's both of them together that caused the whole thing. And therefore, yeah, when he hit himself against the water, yeah, yes, very good, very good. When he hit himself against water and dirt together, then it's kilo is inside the water. If it's inside the water, it's kilo bumped against the shell. It's not like there's water and then he bumped out of the water into the ground. It's all together. So everything is yours. It's kilo bumped head to head with your show. Of course you have on that, right? Because it's all one thing. Answers the Gemara, no. Misova deloy tamu maya. You think the water actually did not get? You think that the water did not get absorbed, and you think that it became one big muddy thing. You think that the water in the other corner we bumped into. There's no water over there. No. You think, excuse me, that the water and the ground are together, like you're asking me? No, but the tamu maya. The water already completely, at that point where he bumped his head on the ground, there is no water there. At that point, the water is already dry. Imagine yourself a puddle. When you see a big puddle, I know from Tel Aviv, it's very flat and in more than one way. It's very flat and there's a lot of puddles there in the winter. And the sewage system there is not so good. So you see a lot of puddles. When a puddle gets dry, it doesn't happen in one day. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? So this guy created a huge puddle. At the beginning of the puddle is one big balagan, mayim and refesh together. If anybody would have fallen into the puddle, it's chayev. Because it's not like my show / puddle pushed you somewhere else. It all happened inside the show. Of course you chayev. But this puddle, you know what happened to it? One part stayed wet, the other part is already dry. He walked into the wet part, started slipping and losing balance, and bumped his head against where? Against the dry part. The dry part is not mine anymore, mister. It's true that 2 days ago my water was there, but we're not in history class over here. Right now, when he bumped his head against what? Against the dryish floor. Against the dry floor? That's already a groman and potur. Very good. Frag the Gemara. Vitalti lama li. Questions? Are you good? Yeah. Okay. So Jeffrey, you're right. He bumped his head outside the puddle. Frag the Gemara. Vitalti lama li. What's talti? And I'll make 2. Why do you need 2 Mishnahs to tell me the same? I already know that if there's a puddle of water, the person is chayev like this, chayev like that. The same Mishnah, more or less, is saying the same at the beginning of the parak. And here again, I've heard already about this puddle. Why is the Mishnah saying the same thing again and again? Answers the Gemara, Chada b'moisa chama, v'chada b'moisa gshomim. To tell you twice. One Mishnah is for the summer, one for the winter, because you chazer shas twice a year. Like Reb Chaim Kanievsky, like Reb Neventhal, so you have to hear one in the winter, one in the summer. Not joking. It means to tell you there's a difference between spilling your water or splashing your water out to the street in the winter or in the summer. Somebody here was asking, Baruch, I think, hi Baruch, that how nice did the street look anyways back then? Weren't the streets full of mud and water and garbage together? Yeah, I know my daughter was in Africa in a very, what's the nice word? Third world country, I think that's a nice PC way to say it. And the street actually stinks from sewage. The sewage is open in the street. Yeah, they get used to it, but like you just used to the stench of what?
Wet year-round.
Oh, but not year-round. Because back then it was wet in the winter. In the winter, it's raining. And when it rains and there's no good sewage system and not nice sidewalks or pavements, then everything gets wet and dirty and muddy. But in the summer, the streets were nice. And actually, one of the many, many things Beis Din would do around Adar, Nisan, when the spring is coming, they would clear the streets and make the street nicer. So at least half a year, people have nicer streets of just clear mud without sewage, without garbage, without water. Oh, so maybe there's a difference. Look at the Raisa, the Tanya. And we saw this Raisa before, many weeks ago. Kol elu shamu, poiskin divorcein, begolfin marosein. All those people that, what do? They open the sewage, how nice, and ligrof, to rake out, like grufa in Shabbos, rake out the water of the irui, the water that's splashed out. In the summer, they're not allowed to do it. In the summer, knas, 500 shekels. Yeah, you don't have permission to splash the water. I'm joking about the knas, not in halacha. In the winter, if you want to, you can splash out the water. Anyhow, it's the street doesn't look who knows what. You can splash it out and spill out the water in the winter. However, even though in the winter you did it with permission, meaning you're not doing an avera as you did it, but in hiziku chayovin l'shalem, that's a chiddush. Some things you're not allowed to do. Some things you're allowed to do at your own risk. And that's also in modern life, lavdil. Yeah. In other words, in the summer, it's actually an offense to make the street dirty and muddy and wet, and it's dangerous. That's already bad. And if someone bumped into it, of course you pay. The chiddush is, and that's a second mishnah about the winter. In the winter, you're allowed to splash out the water because there are lots of puddles around. However, if Mr. Pachachovsky walks down the street in the winter and he can prove with Adim to court, your puddle, there was a CCTV, your own puddle is the one that caused him to fall and break his arm, then you're chayev. In other words, you can splash out the water in Mosek Shamim, but do it at your own risk, which means bear in mind that if somebody would bump into your puddle and slip in it and things will happen, then you're going to be chayev. Meaning, it's not an offense, but, as a nice, not so nice, I don't know what Americans think when they come to an Israeli shop of nice dishes. What does it say? With fancy nice dishes, it says very clear, no nonsense. Shavarta shilamta. I love that. You broke, you pay. Excuse me, please, client here. Not in this country. Shavarta shilamta. You can do whatever you want. You can walk around my store and look at all the kelim. If you break one kli, you pay for it. You broke the nice crystal vase of 500 shekels. I don't care, Mr. You pay. Nobody tells you to get out of the shop. I want to be in my shop. You can be gore if your sponge outside from the vakasha. Bear in mind that if somebody slips into it, then you'll have to bear the consequences, you Mr. Big Boy. He was 1 second before. Jeff is actually nice. He's always mevater. Do you mind? Or he was a little bit before you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I'm listening to everyone. So net with more we saw already before. I'm sorry. The one who hides the street, the one who hides the coats where either he hid the thorns underground, or he hid it, or he created a hedge, I think, right, from thorns. And now, what did we say? Is chayev. When is he chayev? Lo yishanu lemafriach. If your thorns go overboard into Rosh Hashanah, then Mr. You're overstepping your boundaries, you're chayev. I'm not discussing now ownership and not ownership, that's before. But mar kedisle, if you are in Rosh Hashanah, that's not your place. If you have a half a meter long thorn, what's it doing there? It's very significant. When you walk in a path in the park, it makes a big difference whether the thorns are, or the bushes are trimmed or not, right? That disturbs you, and that doesn't, that blocks you. I must say the Nuri are very good at that, with all my negativity. They trim the things in the park quite regularly, and the walking there is much better. Maybe the area will sponsor this year. But if he actually mitzamtzem, if the person trimmed it nicely and those thorns are right by the border, and then someone brushed into it and fell and got damaged, loy, he's potur. My time of potur. Why is he potur in the case when he trimmed it nice? As we said yesterday, it's nothing to do with ownership at the moment. It's not derech bnei adam. The normal way of pedestrian walking is not to go and brush their shoulders against the wall of any type, of iron, metal, of stone, or thorns. It's not the normal way. So I did my right thing. I trimmed it. I didn't overstep anything, and therefore, I'm sorry. It's your fault that you touched my fence. The fence is out of thorns. It's not normal. Who cares about normal? I want thorns. I don't want people to come in. I want barbed wire. The one who hid his coats, his thorns, splinters, spleens. Spleen is a hole. Spleen is a thing in the body. Okay, interesting connection. A person hid sharp items, whatever they are. Letoch kosos shel chaveroi. You know what he did? What a nice neighbor. He wants to get rid of them, but he can't find his way to the next recycle bin. So what does he do? He hid it inside his friend's wall. Inside his friend's wall. Yes, so Reuven puts his chuchios, his sharp stuff, like the wall, like the western wall, the koisel, you can shove in there like notes. So he put in there koitzim and sharp things. Uba ba'ala koisel. The ba'ala koisel came at some point, the owner of the wall came, the sosal koisloi, and he actually broke his wall. He broke his wall. He completely demolished his wall. The wall fell into Shusarabim. Veziku, you know what damaged the people? Not the stones. What damaged them was the sharp stuff. Somebody was walking there, I don't know, barefoot or something, and then the sharp pieces, the broken glasses, were mazik in the street. Chayev matznia. So then the one who hid them, he's the one who's chayev. They're the ones who really caused the damage, not the stones. Let's say the stones didn't. Don't ask me why, because they didn't, okay? Now, the things that caused the damage were the sharp things. Makes sense. They're small and sharp, much more dangerous, right? The stone, you can see a big one. But these were tiny little vicious pieces of sharp metal, sharp glass, and they're mazik. The one who's chayev is not the owner of the wall that demolished the wall, but the owner of the sharp stuff that hid it in there. You can say this and that and the other. Let Rabbi Yochanan talk first. Rabbi Yochanan is the master of this whole sugya. You noticed. If the wall was unstable, if the wall was not so stable and was meant to be demolished, as we know many times, the modern world also, a big sign from the area, from somewhere, this wall is to be demolished within 7 days, 14 days. All the stories about sukkah, you have to demolish it within 7 days, yeah, right? So let's say the wall was ra'ua, the wall was, unstable, and it was meant to be broken, demolished, and rebuilt, and the owner of the zuchuchis knew it. He can see the kind of wall that he's dealing with. So you're being, excuse my language, you're being an idiot. You're hiding it in a wall, knowing that the wall is about to be demolished and fall into the street. So what did you think exactly? Then you're chayiv. It's your fault. Aval because bori, but if the wall is a healthy one, meaning stable, is there to stay, hamatzniya potu. The matzniya is potu. The matzniya says, I think it's a very nice, good wall that's meant to stay there for the next 157 years. And it should stay there. It doesn't bother anybody. It's hidden inside the wall, inside. The owner of the wall is not bothered by that because it's very much inside. It's constant inside. The wall is going to stay there forever, and life is good, and they lived happily ever after. So then the metzniya, the one who hid the sharp stuff, is potter. The chayiv bala koisel, the owner of the koisel is chayiv. The one owning the koisel, he is the one that's chayiv. Why? Because he broke his wall unexpectedly. Now, could also be that the owner of the wall knew about the sharp pieces inside. If you know about the sharp pieces inside and you're breaking the wall, you know that that's going to happen. And that was not an expected thing. That's not the fault of the first guy. You decided to change the chazaka here and do something new, and you're not informing anybody, and you just break it into the street. So now you cause all the sharp pieces to damage the tzibur. So now the bala koisel is chayiv. So again, let's see. What did we say? Depends if it was a stable wall or unstable. Unstable wall about to be demolished, a public hazard. What do we say? It's the fault of the Baal of the sharp pieces. You knew that your hiding place, your safe place is very unsafe. Your safe place is unsafe. Mashenkin, if this place was safe, I hid it in a safe place. There are no garbage bins back then. That's the place to hide, in the wall. He decided to break it, the Baal of wall, it's his fault. That's nice. Amar Ravina. Now the Gemara wants to compare it and then breaks the comparison to a different case. Amar Ravina. Zoi Someres, that is to say, following this logic, let's try and say something else. Somebody dug a bore. He's a good citizen and he wants to cover the bore. The bore, you know how he did it? He took his friend's bucket and hid it with his friend's bucket. He volunteers his friend's money. Again, we don't know how much is the bucket owner involved or not, but Lamaisa, he took his friend's bucket. I'm a good guy. I'm a good citizen. I cover my bore. With who? With someone else's at the expense of someone else. He took his bucket and hid it. Uba Baldli, surprise, surprise. You know what happened to the day later? Wow, big surprise. Ba Baldli came the bucket owner, and he took his bucket. Yeah. what would you say? He says, sorry, that's my bucket. You took my bucket. I'm not interested. Maybe I lent it for 1 minute. Maybe I didn't know about it. Oh, here's my bucket. I'm taking it back. Even though by taking out the bucket, he's recreating the original nezek of the bow. It's his.
What's his bucket?
Yes. Reuven Dagebo. Reuven, once upon a time, a guy, Reuven Dagebo. Reuven is a sort of nice guy. And he says, I learned Bavakama in school, and I don't want to leave my bow uncovered. I'll cover it. Hey, honey, go to Shimon's yard and take a bucket from there. I don't know if Shimon knows about it or not. And he covered his own trouble with Shimon's bucket. Shimon wakes up in the morning. Hey, darling, where's the bucket? Ah, it's on Reuven's bar. He takes it from Reuven's bar. Now, you blaming me for taking my bucket? I took my bucket, which is owned by me. He created the bar. Don't look at me. He created the bar. He should jolly well take the bow and cover it with a different thing. So chayiv ba'al bow. The owner of the bow is chayiv. Of course, the one owning the bow, he's the one chayiv. Zog more pshita. Of course, what's the chiddush over there? And it's also similar to the case of the what? Of the Baal HaKoisel. The Baal HaKoisel, which was Ra'ua. The Baal HaKoisel, which was shaky, right? You would say, oh, where's the nezek? By the way, the Baal HaBo is compared, the Baal HaBo is compared to the Baal of the sharp stuff. The two stories now the Gemara is going to compare. The owner of the wall is like the owner of the bucket. That's a safe thing. That's a safety measure, okay? In both cases, listen carefully. In both cases, I am a damaging person and I use someone else's property to keep my hazard, make my hazard safe, make it non-hazardous, okay? In both cases. The Gemara says, Pshita, and he's telling me the same thing twice. He's basically saying, if somebody hid or covered or did something good to cover his problems with someone else's money, then in both cases, in the case of, let's say, the bow, in the case of the wall, we say, excuse me, you can't use someone else's wall. Yeah, let's say the wall is ra'ua, and you know that the wall is going to fall, right? Then we say, it's the fault of the Baal the sharp pieces, just like the bow, it's your fault, Baal bow. You took someone else's things, that Lee, of course Baal Lee will take it back. But the question is, why do you have to repeat the same thing twice? Everybody knows this guy is not a moral person. Why do you repeat twice? Answers the Gemara, there's a chiddush. Ma'al the tema, I would have said, if I only knew the case of the wall. Over there, the Baal wall, the wall owner, yeah, I just want to see inside the Rashi to make sure. Yeah. Baal HaKoisel, he did not know. I looked again and again. I told you I didn't prepare it so well, but the Gemara Rashi, I didn't see other Rishonim, is a bit strange. Rashi says that in the case of the wall, they did not know each other. Lo yodale de loide. He didn't know, the owner of the wall didn't actually know who hid the thing is there. It makes sense, of course. Of course it makes sense. Wait, I understand. Now I get it. In your again, I get it, Baruch Hashem. The owner of the wall wakes up in the morning, he sees those pieces of sharp stuff in his thing. The one who hid the sharp things, he didn't let the Baal wall, the wall owner know. Most probably not. He wouldn't have agreed to that. It's not a good thing to do. And therefore, he didn't know him. And therefore, we say, there's nobody you can tell. There's nobody you can say, yeah. He says, well, I had no idea who the person is to tell him, take out your cuts. And therefore what? When I demolished it legally, when I demolished it because I had to demolish it, yeah, it's not my fault. It had to be demolished anyways. And I couldn't tell the Baal, the coats, the Baal, the guy who put these nasty little things in my wall. I didn't know who he was. But the case of the bow and the bucket, we assume they know each other. Why? Over here, Baal Dli knows who's Baal Bo. The owner of the Dli, yeah, these are neighbors. The owner of the Dli, he knows who's Baal Bo. Baal Bo came, he took the Dli. I assume Rashi understanding was with permission for a limited amount of time. He asked permission, can I borrow your bucket? He thinks he's using the bucket for a sponge up. What? Oh, he knows him. I don't know if it's permission or not, but he knows who the Baal they know each other. And therefore, I would have said, Havilalo Duye. And the Gemara says, maybe you should have told him. Maybe Anachnabi, the owner of the Dli, should have warned the Baal Abo and said, listen, my friend, I lent you the Dli, or you stole it from me and I'm Moichel, but just be aware, I'm taking my Dli away. It's your right to do it, but why didn't you inform him? Kamash Malani doesn't have to inform him. That's a chiddush. Again, in the case of the Zechuchios and the wall, they don't know each other. Or maybe the Zechuchis knows the wall, there's no communication there. And therefore, nobody can inform the other. I have the right as Baal a wall, the owner of the wall, I need to break my wall. It's a hazard for the public. Hey, didn't you notice a lot of sharp pieces? I noticed, who cares? It's his fault. Yeah, I had to do it today, and I had no way to contact him to tell him that I'm continuing the nezik. Mashenkin here with the Baal Bo and Baal Dli together, the Baal Ha Dli should have said, listen, hey, Mr. Bo owner, you took my Dli and you put it on your bow. Just want to let you know, today, 9 o'clock in the morning, before Shir, I'm going to take it back home. Beware that your hazard will stay unsafe and be hazardous. Just know about it. And maybe if he didn't, maybe he's chayiv. Kamash Malan is not chayiv. That's a chiddush. Even if you didn't inform him, yeah, he's still potter because Lamas, it's not his problem. He used it without my knowledge or whatever. The limited knowledge is not chayiv. Okay, we'll see tomorrow. There's just one more small piece. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't as well prepared. Please be moichel me. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow too. Why not? Lamalo, just as friends. See you tomorrow, Shabbos, Sunday, whenever. But Shir is over. Thank you. Bye-bye.